From the 13th of the second month of 1442, 8 strength and 8 of cups, with 7 of pentacles and 6 of swords reversed. She knows how to work both passion and insensitivity. He sets aside storage tools for ascension to the source of abundancy. The Holly King has regained ascendancy in this dark season, and mistletoe cutting ritual of this 6th lunar day can be preparatory for the stark event of the next day's session. What if the sky was the water and our preparations were not the way? Where are we going, and what was the difficulty anyway? Infestation is all around, but purposelessness is where seeps in melancholy. The past is not to be rejected, but embraced as a stage towards something more satisfactory. We actively honor where we are strong and where we lack as the depths for attention in our own way. And so what are your thoughts of the meaning of the poem, the cards?
I first picked up sensuality. Just sensuality, and I'm picking up earth again. I'm feeling earth. But I picked up confusion, but yet strength. Could that be?
That I guess.
Could that, like, it feels like the things going on today, in today's time, people are confused. People are strong, but they're also confused. But yeah, that's what I picked up.
Well, that's one of the things. So it's one of the things that people think is that, oh, if you're stronger and smarter and all this other stuff, it's like, but then actually you may end up in more problems than you initially were. But
I had a question.
So we have the strength card.
Like, yeah.
Oh, well, go ahead with your question.
I had a question. You know how you hear that you should put your tarot cards in like a cloth cover. What do you think about that? I mean, do cards need like special handling? Or
I feel like some of the stuff where people rub it with salt and sage and all that stuff is actually to make sure that you buy another deck. But that's not entirely it. I know that, but it's some of it is just what you personally need for your associations. You certainly don't want to expose it too much to the elements. It's like, well, I have to sit under the sun and all this other stuff. You ended up with weak, discolored, distorted cards. You think, oh, it's not, it's nicer and better because it has this plastic coating, and sometimes that's actually the case. But then you do this stuff where you sit in the sun.
Or like cleansing by the moonlight and all that, which I actually felt to do that.
Because well,
cleanse the
you
card.
as if you're careful for do and all that stuff, it's I would just recommend a sort of carefulness with that sort of thing, as sort of the integrity of the cards. But it's what a person feels is symbolically necessary for themselves.
Awesome.
Because like some people would put something associated with the card itself. Because the strength card is how you use your strength. Kind of like leveraging, you see this super strong person, but they don't know how to position themselves, so they can't fight, or they can't help in some of the physical tasks that they would if they, they could figure out some leverage or figure out how to breathe better or something.
Yeah.
What the next card was the 8 of Cups, and obviously confusion is obviously something that comes up quite easily. I'm thinking of that one. And save. Okay. I noticed a typo, so I fixed it in the one program. So, but yeah, just like the guy with the swords. But you kind of wonder, like if you flip it from one side, you kind of think it's the ocean, the ocean, and maybe there's a sky. Because some of these cards, if you think about it from a different direction, you can kind of think about it as ocean and sky, depending on which direction you're going.
Maybe that I feel earth. And that's the 8 of Cups.
Well, you got to go through the steps of earth, because that's what somebody may think, is that you've got that oh well, you're on wands, you're already higher, you're even higher than swords, so you can just no, you got to have the lessons of the others. So the 8 of disc, that's like prudence, and then you have the so you have a similar sort of lesson going on. So you do have to ascend still physically, but you're working on things emotionally. But some people would go from the different hands. It's like, as I've said, I'm talking, Enochian magic is one of the big things that I'm into. And you go up and down. Some people go down the aethers, like in towards the earth. Some people go out, and it's just back and forth like that. And speaking of earth, we have a very materially based ritual represented here, because as I said, there's particular times of the moon, there's particular times of
like ritual times,
and it matters. But then again, if you can't do it at this time, you don't necessarily have to wait a full year to do the ritual, just because you can't cut the herb at the particular time and all that other stuff. It's like at the Goetia, it's probably actually best to start doing like fall as a spring equinox sort of thing, and for Halloween you got vine, and you got Bifrons for Samhain, several days later, 5 days later or something like that. And so some of the alliances make very much sense, but then again, you can do them at any at these operations at any time. And what the 6 of Swords, sometimes you get the impression that they're going to stab through the deck. It's like, why'd they have all these swords sticking out of the deck? That's just, it's gonna be over with, isn't it?
Fight. Confusion leads to fight.
But the even number cards, like in the Kabbalah, even numbers have are the supreme. In a lot of symbolism sets, it's the odd numbers that are the supreme. Because first of all, think of it. It's that old alchemical mystery that people don't get because of all the story associated with it. 1 + 1 = 3. So that's why odd numbers or whatever. And if you go back to 1, well, then you're the basic of what things are. You got God, you got whatever, or whatever you want to call it, or it's that sort of stuff.
Right.
So, but in Kabbalah, you got all these the even numbers are like the balance. Like, but when you're like, yeah, you got a 2, and you got a 4, but it's an 8, but there's something a little bit off. Like remember the 7 of Cups. The 7 of Cups is this thing where you have debauchery. But the 8 of Cups is just fine. The 7 of the sevens are, but actually a lot of that's is because of this twist against Lucifer. Lucifer, rather than being this title of the living word, that sort of role or aspect of one's life, going past the written book to the more the big picture, whatever you could call it, the flowering of things, because Venus makes that rose and the rose petal every 40 years. So every 8 years.
My mom used to say, always look at the big picture.
Because yeah, it's weird.
I heard.
It's weird that they've given the sevens. The number 7, they get as much as the planets were considered demonic in some groups and stuff like this. What the 7 give 7 a bad symbolism?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Very.
And the 7th card is the sword card. So if it's not a marriage card, it's like a fight for your life to do what you're supposed to do. But that's sort of what it is too. I have a tarot deck where the Lovers card is two people on a rock, and they're trying to get free from some monster, or trying to make it to survive the attack of the monster together. And it's like, well, for better or for worse, right? That's what they say. And that's
I hope you live.
I think the focus on the 7 being the bad is somehow just related to, 1, they've over moralized things as generations have gone by, and 2, they've broken up their mythology. The female, it's Lucifer, and you don't want an enlightened person. You don't want people bringing out their things. It's about reliance on Jesus. So forget being a Lucifer yourself. So that's why the sphere of Venus is bad. And the female and the negative was all put off. And the female and negative isn't bad by itself either. Negative and positive, just negative and positive. Batteries aren't going to work unless you have both of them.
Exactly.
Day, especially during summer, really needs night. Even if I get bit more by mosquitoes at night, and there's other bugs you have to be out with more, it is still really nice to have a. And winter wouldn't do its thing if it didn't have a night.
Yeah. I hope the mosquitoes don't carry you away. It's so hot. The moon was beautiful last night.
Well, it's the
on top.
I hear this sound going off right now, so it's sunset. So I should really go. But if you have any final thoughts, the one of the things, if all these and all this stuff knocks it off, we're going to just be able to tell time from we're going to go back to the point where, those sounds means the sun is set. Without even looking outside, you know that it's sunrise or sunset, or you know that it's dawn. You know an hour and a half before the sunrise, these sorts of birds start chirping. And I think the only reason, one of the main reasons why people get annoyed at some of the animals is, I think, because things are just so loud and annoying with the humans and the machines that they can't take anything more. Instead of the basic ones that are nice for you, falling asleep to some crickets going like.
Oh, I love that.
Crickets can be loud, and you can fall asleep during the crickets. Just like people in their music. People think, oh no, you can't listen to black metal or dungeon synth or whatever. And no, some of that stuff's very relaxing. You can go to sleep after, as opposed to some other music.
I love black metal. It gives me an actual physical boost when I listen to, certain bands. I can get an actual physical boost from that and feel good.
Yeah, you can go past the entertainment function of all these things, and he's like, no, you want. It's like, no, trust me, you're even more entertained when you get that point. It's like somebody was saying, it was too much. It was like unedible. A whole thing of popcorn, one of those big old tins of popcorn, where you have like 3 packages. And it's like, no, you can't eat a whole pop. That's too much salt, too much transformed, too much cooked. Fat transforms when it cooks. That's just too much of any of that stuff. Because I was looking at the label and I was trying to say, no, look at this. You can have a handful and quit. You can have a handful and quit. You don't eat 4,000 calories of caramel popcorn and say that the popcorn is just unedible. It's like, no, you're supposed to have just a little bit, an ounce or 2 and quit. That's it. You consume, you find, and you hear this all over the place. People tell you all the time, family, friends, strangers, you just hear it all over the place. People, you like down like 8 ounces of sugar in a sitting. No wonder why you had problems.
Right.
Or you had 3 times your day's worth of salt. That I know, I've seen the label to that stuff. That stuff, you can't eat a whole package.
No, it's pure sodium.
No wonder why they say the average woman is size 10 in this country, and the average guy is not too far behind. That's average. It used to be like 6.
Yeah.
I remember when it was 6. That was half my life ago. It was 6. But they want us to be upset, and they want us to sit around and all this food, and they got us used to all these weird colors and stuff like this. Because it's June.
You really, yeah.
Because it's June, they want everything rainbow dyed, and they want to sell stuff for Juneteenth too. And they're saying like, some people are saying enough is enough. Enough is enough. We don't want. They don't want their Pride Week, or they don't want their Juneteenth, just so Walmart can sell them weirdly colored products.
I saw a
Walmart's going
rainbow
to do anyways, I'm
colored
sure. But
dream catcher. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
just like for St. Patrick's Day, it's like it's not really doing anything for some noble some personal identity as your ancestors' nationality or your identity as a Catholic or something, for them to add dyes to your food, and every once in a while they find out that some of those products that are dyed green are actually too toxic or something, and it's like
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, the artificial colors, and one really has to watch the foods.
One has to watch all this other stuff, but it's like
everything.
It's
right?
like I understand. You get into something, particularly you were a Christian your whole life, and you want to get like, one, you find out other groups have more history, more teaching, more stuff like this. And you want to buy, like, you want to sit down and like, you join a Sufi order, and you really want to buy the 10 books that are the books of the order. It's like, no, just start off with the little thing that y'all say together and have a conversation, and then work your way and build the stuff that goes on. If you're a new ager, you want to get like, you have to find people with 300 tarot decks, and it's like, get only the ones. Try to limit it like a deck a year. Get a deck a year. Do something like that. Find a deck that's going to teach you something. Find a deck that's like, here's a deck that's good for ritual. Here's a deck that's going to teach me something. Most decks, I don't think, would do that. So I'm just, even if I have the money, I'm not really interested in buying most decks, period. If somebody gave me a bunch of decks, I wouldn't like, if I was one of those people that did the series, I wouldn't want to have to spend weeks on every single tarot deck and do that 300 times. And, I'm going to be acquainted for that. I'm going to spend the next week working with this deck, and I'm going to come back and do a video, but here's the video of the last deck I did that with. That's not my thing. I don't, If it paid well enough, maybe I'd do that. But it's not really my spiritual calling. That's the size of it, and that's what I do these things for. You get a rock or two here and there. I literally didn't buy these 3 things all at one swoop. I didn't decide I want something for my summer solstice ritual. I'm going to get this stuff. I didn't even include that with this. I just, here's a little stone and here's a little thing. And I spent decades acquiring things that I used. But you feel like, oh, you want to rush out and spend $900 on crystals and herbs and stuff like this. And
yeah, they're outrageous, some of the prices.
But
speaking of little stones, this weekend, I got someone gave me a piece of fool's gold.
Pyrite's one of those ingredients that pyrite, calcite, and azurite in the right temperatures and pressure creates lapis lazuli. And sometimes there's calcite in it. Calcite, pyrite.
I love lapis lazuli. That's the deep blue stone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's deep blue. That stuff, if you get it pure, if you get it no inclusions, pure, that stuff's like $4,000 something an ounce. Last I heard, that was like a decade ago. So the stuff that I have, the couple stones I have are like 10. Everything's more. Sometimes it's because the minerals and stuff that have gone up. But the point is like, what did I learn watching the Church of Hermetic Science videos and non-milated cat and stuff like this? I can draw symbols on paper. If I like a symbol. Like honestly, if you want to do stuff in a spiritual operations and stuff, what you want to do is don't just buy book after book. Write the symbols down. Write the symbols down in your magical diary or stuff like this, and repeat that stuff. If it's just a book on your shelf, one should really limit oneself, or pick a book and read it like once a year or something like that. That sort of stuff. But you can do the stuff with paper. You can do the stuff in your mind. You can do whatever. It's like Enochian magic, the keys. I tell people, if you want to do Enochian magic, start with the keys. Just read the stuff, or listen to the stuff and just meditate on it. That's it. You don't have to have any special little scrying thing, but it does. It affects you. If you make that stuff, it affects you. Don't spend somebody. Don't give somebody $200 to make a super nice one right off the bat or something. Get a pile of old crayons and melt them in a tin. Scratch the symbols and do your Solomonic or Enochian almadels and stuff like that. Do it with that. Scratch, write something on paper. But copy out. You copy out the temple furniture. If one's going to copy out the temple furniture, and that can kind of do your stuff to you. The sigil, the math, it's like a combination lock. It turns back, you follow it this way, and you follow it this way, and you form the names by doing this. It's this whole hierarchy. It works in the place it does. It works reading it back and forth, and finding the names. And but for me, it did a change. Working with this temple furniture actually helped with my other practice of the system. But you just got to go step by step. It's like you start off like, okay, commercial break, ding, I'm turning it off. I'm going to try to meditate a little bit for just a couple minutes, and then, and then it works into something different. But then you want to do stuff in like waking and when you wake up and when you go to sleep, and then you want to maybe just every few hours do something that's just a couple minutes. Like the Dalai Lama has some issues, but the current Dalai Lama, what's his name? Gyaltsen. Guy's name?
Dalai Lama.
Yeah, the Dalai Lama, Gyatso, or what's his name? Whatever his name is, he had a good advice. He said, rather than long periods of meditation, focus on several short periods a day. And actually, if you look back at these prophetic figures that are Abrahamic, which really puts in a limiting time frame, it's really not quite what it is. But you have You got that. But they all, yeah, you go to synagogues and they try to say the dawn prayer all dawn, clear to sunrise, and then they go silent for a few minutes, and then they start again. That's too much in these days and age to expect to make your prayer services in the evening and in the morning, or maybe in the afternoon, like hours. People can't take their whole their lunch break is shorter than your service. You gotta make it something like a few minutes that people can do, or they can do it on their own and for a couple minutes or something like that. But the long meditations, you don't have to do the long meditations. You can do short ones your whole life, and that'd be just fine. Because it's best that you can just get into state and for a few minutes go back to your life and that sort of thing. Because if you do long ones, you get into this point where you have to be 20 minutes in, and then colors and feel things moving, all that stuff, and it's like,
for 3 years, I thought I was doing meditation, but it's easy to be misled. I was doing
like all this stuff. I went to the library. They had all these DVDs that said yoga on it. There wasn't a single one that was yoga. It was all wearing sexy clothes and bending over and stuff, but nothing about yoga as far as I could tell. There was like 20, 30 titles, and there was nothing about yoga, all stretching and breathing. Yoga is, you can't just stretch and breathe, and it implies modesty. You don't get this big old window. You don't turn the heat up to 110 degrees so you sweat more and give even more attention. Just like Tantra. Right. Tantra, these things do have sexual components. It's not like they're divorcing from those parts of life, but Tantra, people buy books on Tantra and get very disappointed. It's like the Kama Sutra, I thought it was, only the 8th chapter, dude. Only the 8th chapter is what you were looking at. And you were actually hoping for a picture book. You weren't looking for the instruction. You're just hoping for the picture book. And people look at Tantra and say, like, for 2 pages, they're actually about sex. And they forget all the other stuff. It's about building up your abilities and identity and stuff like this. But anyways, it's... But that tarot is supposed to be, tarot, whatever deck you pick, is supposed to get you thinking about everything. And sometimes you don't want to get the deck that's too fluffy or too dark. You want to get something in between. Like, I don't know, that one deck I have is probably too violent to be as useful as some other decks. But some of it's like, okay, they're hunting a deer, but do they really have to have a bloody deer on the middle of the card? Was it really... And what's the point that there's deer out there? You really have to have a deer being killed. That's just, there's deer out there, man. Because the deer have more of a role in, even if you eat deer, they have more in a role of teaching you, right?
Right.
Deer are more valuable as teachers than something to eat.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying don't properly slaughter an animal and eat it. That's definitely, but there's more that the animals have to teach you.
Oh yeah.
And there's more to these categories than, like of course, like the woman on the deck on the cover here. There's more than princesses. I think this is the Princess of Pentacles. I may be wrong. I don't quite remember at this point. Maybe she's like the Empress. Maybe not. I don't think she's the Empress. But anyways, there's more than her just being pregnant. There's more to it than that. Like you're at the bottom. If it is the princess, so what the Princess of Disc would be? The Princess of Disc would be like sort of a prerogative sort of thing. It's a prerogative. So you sometimes have like a variety here. So you have the different 3 modes: yellow, red, and blue. So those represent, passion, ignorance or darkness, and good or truth or whatever. Because Thomas is not quite the same thing as ignorance. That's a misrepresentation. But you have the red, just like the 10 of Disc, you have the red integration, or reintegration if you prefer, which is less meaningful actually of a word, but return to original state rather than re-merging with the stuff. because it's not the restoration sense. By calling it red integration, you have that. Now, did Crowley do a typo, or did he mean it that way? That's been the question with other matters when it comes to Crowley and some old authors. Did they mean it this way, or was it a typo? Which it doesn't matter, because if you're getting use of either one, that's whatever. And it's not like they're being scholarly about it. They're trying to work things out in their own life mystically, whatever. But it's all part of the thing. The tarot has this downward motion, and then you're back again, but then you're not stopped. Just because you're at the universe card doesn't mean there's not more work to do. Because like if you're being sucked into a black hole, like doesn't the Crowley Thoth tarot says you're being sucked into a black hole, which is pretty cool. And that sort of stuff. But there's more work to do. Just like I've done a series on the Buddha tarot, because it was helping me think. It wasn't really as informative as it might have been, but I'm not. I'm not formally. I've read some books, I've interacted, whatnot, but Buddhism isn't like a main thing in this culture and whatnot. So a Buddhist tarot deck to kind of summarize it for me, to sort of review and think of the issues in broad. And they have that Buddha tarot deck has a 23rd card, because the Parinirvana. And so you have the Nirvana, and then you have after Nirvana. Because Nirvana, as long as you're alive, and that's the point. That's the point. You're about being liberated or saved or whatever you want to call it. It's not just when you're dead. You want to be this before you're dead, and you want to take this to the point where you're this when you die. You're a consciousness where you can, when death hits you, you can react properly. That's what's going on. Because that's a lot of what people think is, I've reached this point, I've done this, I've stopped. Maybe that's the best thing you're ever going to do, but don't skimp out on what's left just because you think you've done the best you're going to do, or even know you've done the best you're going to do.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome.
That's people don't understand me with the tarot, because there's too many people that are like, I can tell your future or your unseen secrets or something. It's like, maybe you watch people act, and you can figure out some of that stuff. And that's what you're supposed to do when you do it.
That's what I think.
What?
That's always what I thought when I was younger, and I had got my first deck of cards, and I thought, oh, it's just tell your fortune. And there's a lot more than that. The thing that
it gets you thinking of those issues. You answer yourself. You ask yourself a question, and some pattern appears, and that gets you thinking in a certain way.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sometimes I wonder how, when, like I said back then, people would come, like people I didn't know, that I would use the cards. I would tell them things about their personal life, and like I said, I didn't know these people. So is that just the intuition being worked when you see the cards?
Well, you see how they react to the cards, and it gets you to thinking of some of these things, and some of these lessons are pretty broad, and it can address people in ways that you kind of don't think, and there is sometimes spiritual influences, but you can't exactly expect an oracle to actually do that. Now you can turn it into a spiritual practice. That's what you can rely on, is you can turn it into a spiritual practice, but necessarily, I've done this, and the entities are going to just answer me through the oracle exactly perfectly as I want. It's not necessarily going to be the case, but if you make it about, just make it you're devotionally thinking through the issues, and just whatever comes up, you're going to let it try to, you're going to try to answer yourself in those contexts. Just like when people pick up the same people who will condemn tarot will act like they can flip open to an undisclosed portion of their scripture and answer themselves what the problem is by doing that. It's the same sort of thing, because you're going to answer yourself based on that. As long as you're not, and Judas went and hanged himself, flip, and go down, and do likewise. Oh no. But the Bible told me to kill myself. No, it didn't tell you to kill yourself. You picked two random passages and you didn't put it together right.
I got you.
But yeah, I've got to go here a little bit. So
I hope that this don't die. I'm on 1.
well, I am on 1 minute and 11 seconds, and I am actually late. I was expected in 20 minutes ago, so I should head in. So, well, I mean, I was, you know, I was
I
expected
bet
in a
you're
different room.
burning up.
What?
I said, I bet you're burning up. Has it cooled off any?
I might as well
It's
tell you the
still
temperature.
here.
It's 92 degrees in here.
Oh, ooh. Now
And
too.
it's cooler outside, but it's not
And it's
as cool inside because I can't leave because of the cloud cover. I have to leave side window. I have to you know, whatever is about window wise, I can't leave it unattended. So I can't be distracted when there's cloud cover, and because it rains. It rains like nowhere I've ever lived until I moved here. I mean, it rains about the same on average, but it will rain all the months, rain all at once. It'll rain so much it will make up for the drought before and after.